This is Kieran Holland. I don't know if I put it in my account on YouTube. I have two accounts. One's called Rock Me Amadeus, and the other one is my full name, Kieran Holland, KIERNNANHOLLAND, all together as one word. And that's my stream on YouTube. That one's really mainly for me singing and my philosophies, which I'll probably move over here. But I wanted to talk about this little charger, and it looks to me like this is some sort of Chinese manufactured charger. The other day, I'm not going to use it anymore, but the other day I noticed it was overheating. And I do not know why it was overheating, but it was extremely hot, and I thought, this is probably going to cause a fire. So probably, if you're watching this, if you got any Chinese-made equipment or anything of that nature, and it is hot for no apparent reason, because I wasn't really using it that heftily, as hot as it was. This is also called a quick charger, and that's probably also the reason why it was why it was overheating. But and probably what I was feeling was that it might have its heat sink attached to the sides of or the heat sink might be way close to the packaging. There's probably not enough good airflow in this thing, and so as a result of that, it gets really hot. I don't know if that amount of heat is not enough to produce a fire, but I still know that nonetheless became fairly paranoid of it, and so because none of my other chargers, like that one there, overheats. I know this to also be true of batteries, chargers, that 50-minute chargers, that unless the charger has a fan that drives air over the batteries, it can be particularly, it's a good chance the batteries will explode. And so if you get a 15-minute charger, make sure that it's got a fan that's running air over the batteries to keep them cool, because you don't want anything to overheat. Also, anybody who does what's called overclocking and you don't have proper cooling of your PCs, that will cause your components to burn out a lot quicker. That's the reason why the manufacturers, this is the same sort of reason, when Michael Jackson started confiding in his the people that were managing his painkillers and his plastic surgery. He would ask them probably, "Do I need more plastic surgery?" And of course they'd say yes, because it's their business, and they were probably not all that concerned about him at all. Psychopaths sometimes find themselves in the medical industry because of the money and because people are so gullible. For the same reason, that's probably going to happen to you if you're overclocking your game system, and you see your game system overclocking is getting the most value out of it. The reason why the manufacturers originally do not overclock the CPUs is because they understand what heat does to the CPU, and it adjusts the longevity of your platform. But gamers don't seem to have an infinite flow of money and are willing to throw more money at a system if they can get about 20% more power out of it, because for the same reason why somebody who's doing a bicycle race will cheat by doing drugs, performance improvement drugs, steroids. It's not so much a bad thing to go up to a high altitude and work out and then put your blood into pouches and put them in a refrigerator and use them whenever you're in competition. That's actually what people would do in my hometown of Los Alamos. Is they would go up, the Olympic swimmers would go up there to practice, and then they would collect their blood into packets and put them in a refrigerator so that whenever they're in the Olympics, they would be using fully oxygenated blood cells that that had a lot more oxygen in them than the blood cells that were in them at sea level in the the Olympic Games themselves. So if you're trying to get a leg up on your competition by having faster frame rate or a more computational ability, and you think this is going to improve your game, then you're probably going to overclock your CPU. Just keep in mind that there is a fine line between the best performance of your CPU and the extremes. And what you're really pushing on the extremes is the integrity of your processors, the heat tolerance, and the materials that are used in the CPU, the chance that they might break if overheated, and also things like electrons jumping paths and creating errors, computation errors, also propagation errors, not fully being able to, not having correct program state, producing states in the program that were not intended by the game developers and the people that created the operating system, and the people that created the components of your motherboard. Whenever you start pushing the clock cycles higher, the clock is really in the whole purpose of the clock is to guarantee proper interaction of all the components inside of your motherboard. And if you increase the clock cycle beyond the length of time it takes for a signal to get across the motherboard, then you'll have multiple signals, multiple bits. You'll possibly have a 0 and a 1 bit flowing into a register at the same time, or within the same clock cycle, or not within the same clock cycle, but at such a it's kind of like you want to have a full complete power level whenever you're sending information over the data and address lines. And if you are increasing the clock cycles to a crazy amount, it is sending like multiple bits of data within, and whenever the components are working slower or they're working faster, but it's sending multiple bits of data over those lines, and it's almost like it's communicating more things than it can possibly do. It's going beyond its capability, and there's a greater chance for error, and it'll crash your game. It could do any number of nasty stuff to your computer. And so overheating, overclocking, anything that goes over against the tolerances of your hardware, you are going to suffer. And you're not going to be able to explain it to your gaming buddies, and they'll laugh at you because you didn't understand what you were doing with your computer, and you'll have to bullshit your way out. So, but you'll also be paying way more money than they are, and it ain't worth it. You know, it ain't worth it to keep the facade going. And some of your friends might actually be sociopaths or psychopaths, and psychopaths don't give a damn about your ego. Their ego's always superior to yours. You'll never be able to live up to them because they don't identify with you, and they really don't care how you. They're more interested in themselves, so much more interested in themselves than they are of you. They're always considering what the return investment is. So anyhow, I need to go now.